Welcome to Halo 3 ODST. The spin-off title ran on the Halo 3 engine. Now, probably the biggest confusion that this game has is where in the timeline exactly it lines up. This game takes place in New Mombasa during the events of Halo 2, shortly after Master Chief had left the city. Now, the reason why there is so much confusion around this is because, as aforementioned, it runs on the Halo 3 engine instead of its own engine, which means the art style of the game is identical to that of Halo 3, instead of looking like Halo 2. As far as I'm aware, and feel free to correct me about this in the comments, there is not a lore or canon explanation for why things like brutes, for example, look like how they do in Halo 3 instead of how they do in Halo 2, which is why I have made a theory that I believe explains this. I thought it would be appropriate to dedicate the first section of this video to the ODST's art style changes, due to them being the name of the game. Now, I believe that the armor differences between Halo 2 and Halo 3 is simply just how ODSTs were stationed. The ODSTs of Halo 2 are featured wearing very similar armor to their Marine counterparts. The only differences are that their armor is now black and they wear fully encased helmets. ODSTs are usually deployed with the Master Chief, functioning as bodyguard type units, meaning they're a lot more built for action. They wear more minimalist armor that gives them better mobility, and are usually shown in small groups, defending a certain place, acting as superiors to the standard Marine. In Halo 3 and Halo ODST, ODSTs are featured wearing much more jagged armor, in a wider variety of colors, and a much more advanced helmet. The reason for this difference most likely comes down to the fact that the ODSTs in Halo 3 and Halo ODST are used more for stealth and sting type operations. Something important to note before continuing this video is that I will be considering Halo 2 Anniversary as the current most canon art style, due to the fact that it is the most recent iteration of Halo 2 we've gotten, so I consider that the true canon look compared to the OG Halo 2. With that being stated, we can now finally get into the look of the Marines and how drastically different they are. The Marines of Halo 2 wear full metal suits of armor in a bronzy kind of color, compared to Halo ODST, where they wear more leathery, kind of bulletproof armor vesting type things, and in green no less. So, why do they look so different? Now, if you didn't like the explanation I gave for the ODSTs, this could also be an alternative, so keep that in mind. I believe the Marines' art style differences simply come down to where they're from. While the Marines we see during Halo 2 are presumably all Lord Hood's fleet, the ones we see during Halo ODST and Halo 3 are presumably just Earth's defenses. Not specifically New Mombasa's defenses, just the defenses for Earth. I'm gonna be so honest, I could not come up with a good explanation for why hunters look different and for why gold hunters are a thing. I know gold hunters basically don't have any explanation in the lore, and I can't come up with really any of my own that are actually half plausible. So if you guys have any ideas for why you think hunters look so different between Halo 2 Anniversary and Halo ODST, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I don't really have anything to say for this section. So, moving on. This is a big one. The brutes, the main source of confusion and why people think this game takes place during Halo 3, and also the one that definitely needs the best explanation for why they look different. I actually have two explanations, so you can take your pick on which one you personally like to believe. My first explanation is simply just that the majority of brutes were wearing power armor. It's just that the brutes within High Charity working directly under Tartarus wore the more traditional brute aesthetic compared to the rest of the brutes, which were already in power armor acting as officer type characters. If you don't like that explanation, though, I could also take it in the complete opposite direction, making it so that the brutes we see in Halo 2 were the majority of brutes. However, the brutes we see during Halo 3 ODST were hand-picked brutes by the Prophet of Truth, sent in to finish the infiltration of New Mombasa, wearing, at the time, brand new power armor suits. Now, with both of those options, you can choose whichever one you want to believe and let me know which one you think is better in the comments. I personally like the second explanation more, but I think both of my explanations make sense. This last part is less so a theory as it is just a confirmed event, but another reason people believe this takes place during Halo 3 is because there are not any present elites. Well, kind of. Elites are present within the campaign, but we only find them as dead bodies scattered along New Mombasa's streets. So, why aren't there any enemy elites, and what happened to these dead elites? Well, the explanation is pretty simply just the Prophet of Truth. So as we know by playing Halo 2, there were no hostile brutes in New Mombasa during the events of it. However, during the events of Halo 3 ODST, we find exclusively hostile brutes. This is because the brutes that are found during ODST were sent in by the Prophet of Truth to take place of the elites by any means necessary, which includes killing them and stowing their bodies away, somewhere hidden, which is why most of the time the corpses are found in corners of the maps. This is a gruesome fact, but one that's important to point out so we can understand why there are no hostile elites. With that, my theory on Halo 3 ODST's weird and unexplained art style change is explained. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to finish watching the time-lapse of how this video's thumbnail was made. I hope everyone who watches this has a nice morning, afternoon, evening, or night, and I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye!